Monday, November 25th promised to be a fun evening for Pastors Glen and Deborah Berteau. It was Deborah's birthday, and her prayer group had planned a party for her at church.
I was happy my husband was with me. Lots of times he stays home because he's very tired after preaching 3 times on the weekend. That night he came with me because of my birthday party.
Deborah had no idea it could be the last birthday they had ever spent together. They had arrived early and were waiting in the pastor's lounge on the opposite side of the building. When it was time to drive around to the party, Glen went to the car while Deborah finished some work. By the time she came out, Glen appeared to be asleep at the wheel. When she tried to wake him, he didn't respond.
The more I shook him and nothing was happening, I was realizing the seriousness of it.
At that moment, Penny Greaves, a member of the prayer group there for the party, came over. She just happened to get off work early and had parked on the wrong side of the building where Glen's car was. She also happens to be a nurse practitioner and pulled Glen from the car.
He was pulseless. I concluded he was dead because he was pulseless, he wasn't breathing, and his pupils were dilated.
Immediately, Penny started CPR. By now, people were gathering and someone called 911 while others prayed.
I was already hysterical. I think I was in shock.
When the ambulance arrived 10 minutes later, Glen still had no pulse. Having many years of critical care experience, Penny took charge of the scene, pressing the EMTs to keep trying.
Every time they said, let's give up and let's quit, there's no use, he's too far gone, she would say, no, let's continue to work.
Deborah found it hard to grasp what was happening.
I just remember being comforted by several of my intercessor ladies around me.
Finally, after 30 minutes, they got a pulse. They rushed Glen across the street to Memorial Medical Center.
I just don't remember having a lot of thoughts. I was just crying, and then the next thing I know, I'm binding the spirit of death, along with my crying.
Eventually, Glen was taken to ICU, and for 6 hours they waited and prayed. Then, around 1 a.m., a doctor came out with devastating news.
He said, he's not good. And I said, well, is he dead? And he said, not yet, but he will die tonight. I just remember saying, can I see him? He said, yes, go say goodbye to him.
At the suggestion of Dr. Manuel Conga, a friend who had come to support Deborah, they used a pump to stabilize Glen's blood flow.
They feel like he's done. Or if he's gonna make it, he'll be brain damage, he'll have a lot of secondary morbidity from the arrest itself because of prolonged CPR.
Still, his doctors didn't know what caused the cardiac arrest and couldn't take appropriate steps to fix it. The next 24 hours would be critical to Glen's recovery. Doctors discovered Glen had an electrical issue with his heart that would require surgery. Yet Glen, now in a medically induced coma, needed to get stronger before they could operate.
He had machines doing everything for him. He had one helping his heartbeat. He had the intubation, helping him breathe. And then he was on dialysis.
I was really confident that he's gonna make it based on my faith. But based on my being a doctor, I still have doubt.
We would sing and worship. We had some really glorious times around his bed.
And Glen's body responded. Not only did he make it through those critical 24 hours, he showed amazing signs of improvement. Then on Saturday, 5 days after his heart attack, Glen opened his eyes.
And we were all happy.
Once awake and alert, Glen shared that he had had a vision. He was stuck in a pitch-black room where he sensed a menacing figure pacing in front of the door.
And all of a sudden I start hearing this thunder. It's almost like a hurricane, deep sound. It's people's voices. I hear my wife praying. I hear my pastors praying. I hear people from around the world. And they're all saying the same thing. Death, you can't have him. Death, you have to let him go. God is not through with him.
The figure then shoved him through the door out of the room. The next thing Glen remembers is waking up. He says God then told him what the vision meant.
He said, you were in a room of death. I said, how was I able to come out of that room of death? It was a conglomerate of Christian people coming together with their gifting and just putting a demand on death.
A short time later, Glen had surgery to install a cardiac defibrillator. 2 weeks after dying in the parking lot, Glen went home, where he fully recovered.
He was not his old self yet, but in certain ways he was. He could hug me and he could kiss me and things like that.
The Berteaus and everyone involved loved to share how the power of prayer and God's guidance saved Glen's life.
This miracle happened, and it's, you know, there's nothing fake about it. There was nothing that was contrived. It was purely a miracle from God.
God had Dr. Conga there, and God had Penny there, and God had intercessors there. It was the prayers that kept him alive.
It highlights the miracles. It highlights signs and wonders. It highlights his ability to turn around any bad situation and make it good.